Well, hello everyone. My name is Kevin Cheney and this is my shop, Red Maple Forge. And today is Monday, so it's Maintenance Monday. So if you're new around here, what Maintenance Monday basically inclines is doing maintenance around the shop or just doing shop improvements. Last week I did those shelf brackets and they finally got up. I know it looks a little lopsided on the camera. The camera is a little tilted, but that is straight on the wall. So what we're doing today is we got some maintenance to do on my forge press. Well, actually not on the press itself, it's on the dies. And right now, this is my press. And as you can see, my dies are kind of all over the place. That is something I will be fixing in a future video. But today is basically going over the dies and making sure that they're nice and clean and all stuff. So I probably will just quickly go over some of the dies I have. And yeah, and then any ones that I see that needs cleaning, we'll get them cleaned up. So a lot of my dies are made out of mild steel. So the first pair, I call them fuller dies, but I don't know if I really would say. Let's just put the secondary camera over onto the anvil so you can see them a little better. So these guys are just, I think 1.5 inch round, welded on to plates. Now these guys are double plated because these dies were originally made for my air-assisted hydraulic bottle jack press, which was the smaller footprint. And now they got just welded onto my bigger plate. I usually use 1/2 inch thick plate for my dies. And these guys, even though they're only mild steel, they're actually in pretty decent shape. So I'm gonna just be putting these aside and moving on to the next ones. So quite a few of these dies are actually in good shape because either I haven't used them that much or I've used the proper steel. So going on to the next set of dies, these ones are my V-block ones. And I did, I think, a video on these. I can't remember if I did a video or not. But anyways, these are actually made from 4140 forklift tine. And they look, other than a little bit rusty, they look identical to how I made them. So they too are going on the back shelf. I'm also checking the length. I did make a change last year or the year before. I made a change on how my dies sit in my press. So they all got a little shorter. Some haven't made it that far because I just don't use them that much. So yeah. So I'm also double checking that. If there's any ones that need to be shortened, then I'll do it now as well. So these guys are enough fuller dies. These guys are just enough fuller guys. This used to be actually a spring from a transport truck or lorry truck. So these guys actually look in good condition too. Yeah. Just check the size. So I know a lot of my dies have been cut down to the right size now. So I'm not too worried about them. My next set of dies are these guys. And these guys I actually made up to make my cross peen hammers a lot quicker. And how they sit is, let's see if I can, they sit like that in the press. And that gives me my peen, my cross peen, a lot easier than trying to, you know, work it out and all that. One problem is that the peen starts going off center a little bit. This one I wasn't paying attention when I did it. So I got kind of a more top peen and my cross peen than I want normally. I know there's different patterns for cross peens. I usually use the German cross peen, I believe, where the peen is right in the middle, like that, which is what you commonly see, I think, but could be wrong. So those dies are perfectly fine. Like I said, I made those last year or the year before. I think it was the year before. Yeah. And then these guys are just a little bit of spreader dies. So this is on the opposite like axes of the other two fuller dies. And this is so when they're in the press, I can spread out my bit on my axes. And these are actually the only dies that I've made from H13. And they've held up really good, actually. So the H13, it's a bugger to forge, but it really holds up with the abuse that I've put them under. And those dies are probably one of the dies that I've used the most of. And while I'm also here, I might as well clean up off the table. So I got like chunks of forklift tine. I've cut a whack of forklift tine down to be the size I need for my 3-pound cross peen. So I have, this is actually, this one here, this tool here I have is actually for doing candle holders for tea light candle holders. So that goes and it presses down from the top, and that leaves the nice perfect size I need for tea lights. I can't remember what size I made these two. Whatever worked for tea lights. So for inches, it basically is 1.5, a little bit heavier than a 1.5, I believe. So that guy needs to find a home eventually by the press. Not that I do a lot of tea lights, but yeah. These guys have to stay with the press. These are pins. Well, one's a bolt, but these are rough pins for how my system is. To hold the bottom die, I'll actually bring you up on that. So to hold the bottom die, you see there's holes at the bottom there. And these pins go underneath that, goes in that, which sits on top of the dies. And that keeps the bottom die from flipping up. The top die, it's held in differently. So I don't really worry about that. It has actually plates underneath. I'll show you that. It's got plates right here. Whoop, right here. That holds it up. And then I have a simple like latch that just kind of holds the die in place. In the back, there are stoppers, so the die can't slide all the way back. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of a second to clean this up a little bit. So bear with me for a second. So like I got pieces of die blanks. So this is the steel already cut to fit in my press, but I just haven't made a die on top of that yet. And it's just a bunch of random stuff around here. Staples for electrical. Yeah, I got those. A shawl pin that really, in all honesty, I just need to make the pin part of it. So one of the reasons why I want to go through my dies is some of my dies have been well abused. So I want to take the time now to address them, because especially my flat dies, which I'll show you next. My flat dies are taking a little bit of a beating. Actually, I probably won't show that next, because on top of dies I have my punches. So I got that's pretty well all the dies I have right at this point in time, other than my flat dies. So I do also have punches. So this is for my axes. And it is not in that bad of shape that I'm actually going to worry. It does slightly bow a little bit, but I really don't want to. This is made out of H13. And I think at this point I'm going to leave it, because the next couple of holes I do might straighten that up. But yeah, that one is pretty well good to go. You notice there's a line of more black on the bottom. What I use for punch lube right at this point in time is beeswax and graphite. So that's where that's coming in. But yeah, looking down at it, it's in pretty good. It's not terrible condition. So this guy I'm gonna leave. I have stripper bars that work with both my axe punch as well as my my hammer punch, which is this guy. And he is pretty beat up to the point where he probably needs to be rebuilt. So he's going to be the first guy we tackle. Now, he's made out of H13 as well. And like I said, he's really beat up. The last time I used him, I got a little off on my, because as well as using this for punching, I use this as a drift as well. I misjudge my bolster plate, and that's why I got a big nub starting up here. So we get him clamped up in the vise, and we'll start cleaning him up. So this is going to be a little noisy. Normally I would probably do this upstairs in my belt grinder, on my belt grinder, but we'll do it down here. I'm trying to think of the best place to put you to not get sparks all over you. So we'll try from this side. Are we in a good, so that's the spot there. So on this guy, I'm just going to use an angle grinder. I probably will get my respirator out in a sec once I get that grinder set up. And him I don't worry about leaving a little bit more rough. He pretty well smooths out the first time I use him. So I probably will turn your sound down while I'm using the grinder, because it's going to sound terrible. So I'll maybe move you up a little bit. Move you up a little bit. How's that? Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to wear my respirator when I'm grinding. I kind of, especially the amount of grinding I might have to do with this guy. So I might sound a little muffled, but we'll get that cleaned up. So I'm going to start off with 60 grit on my angle grinder with a flap disc. What was on there was a used 40, and I know that This stuff doesn't grind very well either. H13 is really, it's really tough stuff. And basically all I'm doing is trying to take as much of that nub down. I don't want to shrink this anymore. I'm at a point where I'm almost ready to make a new one. This was originally made to be used with a pair of tongs and done by hand. That's why you got a little bit of a fuller mark in there. And it just slowly got modified to be using on a press. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually look down it to make sure I'm still like straight. And this is actually one of the cases where it is not. So I have two options here. I can grind it down and make it more consistent on both sides, which is probably what I'm going to do. The other option is reforge it so it straightens out, or cut it and re-weld it down. And I think what I'm going to do is actually just take a little bit off this side. I think that's going to be the least resistance. So basically all I'm going to do is take off a little bit. It's going to be hard in this vise. The vise does slant forward. So I might have to, I'm going to have to take it out after my grinding session just to see where I'm at. So I think that is gonna do it for me. So this one's pretty well done. Like I said, I'm not gonna go much deeper into really smoothing that off. The first time I use it, it'll smooth off pretty good. Now my lax dies, and these ultimately will be the ones that I need the most work on, are my flat dies. They are mild steel, a big chunk of mild steel, and it was one of those ones where it's like, I needed flat dies. What do I have? And this is what I have. So this is the bottom one, and as you can tell, it is dinged up and all that, and I've already flattened these once, like re-flattened them once, but it's already got dinged up again. This is one of the downsides of using mild steel. So I'm gonna quickly go over it with the flap disc, smooth it off as best as I can. Now these guys, I do care a little bit more about getting a nice smooth surface on here, because if this is not a smooth surface, it will show up in your work. Hence why I'm actually doing this, because I noticed on something I did last time, like the last time I used these, when I was doing the tongs. Which one? Oh, when I was doing the box tongs, I was getting little ripples throughout the steel. I'll see if I can get that. Little ripples. And what's causing that is on my top dies for this. So I actually got dimples because I used a ball peen hammer in this at one point in time. And it actually just went right in. So the top die is actually worse than the bottom. Let's get some coffee in me. So obviously, in an ideal world, I would be using a tougher steel for this, 4140, and it's on the list for me to remake these with forklift tine or 4140. It's on the list. Yeah, these guys will actually probably be modified into another die, more of a kind of fuller or textured die. So like if I wanted to do tree bark, these would be an awesome one to quickly modify to do tree bark or something like that kind of line. Or, yeah, I don't know, add texture. I can easily make these to add texture. Like these are so soft that my, if I just took my cold rolled 3/16 square into these, it'll actually leave lines. And that's just because this is cold rolled. Guess how I know that? So back to the dies. So yeah, obviously 4140 would be a better choice on this. And I'll get there. So pretty well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth this out as best as I can with a flat disc, trying to keep it as flat as possible. It is tricky with a flap disc. Having a hard back and sanding disc, or yeah, sanding disc would be better. I currently don't have any. Maybe I do actually. Do I? That's a good question. I don't think I do. I have the backer, but I don't think I actually have any sanding disc for it. So what I mean by backer, or they also go by resin fiber and stuff like that. So it's a hard disc. I don't know how, yeah, you can see that pretty good. That goes onto your angle grinder, and you can get, it's hard sanding discs. I do actually have some that are too big for my 4-inch grinder. Let me just pull out one. They're called like resin back sanding pads. Here's one I got. And like, that's just too big for my grinder right now. So, yeah. And it's just it's really stiff. Back sanding pad. These are a lot easier to grind and keep consistent. The other thing, let's see if I can find it. The other thing is a grinding cup. And I had one somewhere. Had one somewhere. Let's see if I can find it. Nah, I can't find it. So it's actually, it's like my wire wheel cup, but it actually is a grinding disc. If you have watched a lot of Hoffman, oh, here it is. Liam Hoffman uses these, well, used to use these to smooth out the top of his axes. So it's just a big, it's a cup shape grinding disc. These guys, if it was a little bit more beat up than what it currently is, I probably would do this grinding disc first, just to get it back to as smooth as possible. But because these guys are not too bad, because I did dress them not that long ago, I'm just going to use my flap disc and hopefully it works out. So now that I got it pretty smooth and like most of the dings out, I'm not trying to get every single one out. There are some deep ones that are just not practical to get out. But that's pretty well roughly where I want them to be. I'm just going to check with a straight line or a straight edge if it's really dimpled down in the middle or where I'm at. So right now, this is actually has stayed relatively flat throughout its life. There's a little minor if you go from this corner to that corner. It's a little tiny bit. So right now, I'm going to leave that exactly like from a grinding level and off point of view. That is actually perfectly good. And now I'm actually going to be getting out my palm sander and going through some grits just to really clean this up. Don't know what I'm starting at. 120. You could go with, the reason why I'm using a palm sander is you could go with lower grits with your flap disc, but I find, at least with me, when I'm using a flap disc, when I go to that lower grits, I still get like ripples. Now, I could go upstairs and do this all on my belt grinder, but you guys wouldn't be able to see any of this. And you might not have a belt grinder like me, or where you decide to buy a press before a belt grinder. Hey, possible. That's kind of what I think I did. Yeah, I built a press before I bought a belt grinder. A lot of stuff that you can get away with. A lot of stuff you can get away with just using an angle grinder and like a palm sander, or using like your wheel bench grinder. All of which I already had. So I think the belt grinder. Oh no, that's not true. I actually had B, my first belt grinder. I didn't have my other one, the latest one, the one that most people would consider as the belt grinder. I know you guys are like, what are you talking about? You got 2 belt grinders? Yes, I do. B does need some work. B will be coming down here in a couple of weeks. Anyways, to the palm sander. I'm going to actually drop down a grit with my palm sander because the the flap disc is a little bit more aggressive than it needed to be. So I'm just seeing what I got for. I should have some 60 grit somewhere in here. I know I'm off camera. You can't see me. What are you doing, Kevin? I'm going through my filing cabinet of all my grits. Yes. Also, a hand belt sander could be used on this too. The only problem with a hand belt sander, it's really hard to get different grits. of belts for it. At least that's what I have experienced in my area. You're pretty well left with relatively low grits. I think 220 is the highest it goes in my, like, for stuff I could just go to the hardware store for. I know online you can get a little bit higher. I thought I had some 60. I guess I blew through that. So it might take a little bit longer with the 120. Definitely getting higher grits is easier for a palm sander than a belt grinder. I mean belt sander. And this is one of those things, like when you're doing, say, a knife, where you want to make sure you get all the scratches from the previous grit out before moving to another grit. That is one of the downsides with these orbital palm sanders, is that because they orbit and all that, they will leave, you know, circles basically. No, it is circles. Marks onto your piece. So sometimes it's really hard to know when to switch up. And for a die like this, I probably would go 220. And that is 220 with a palm sander. And that would probably do ya. I do have quite a bit of 320 as well. So I might pop up to the 320. Let's see how it goes to the 220. If I was doing this on a belt grinder, like the one I have upstairs, I would probably go with 400, if not 6. Ow. Sorry, I got a sliver in my thumb. I think that's got it. Okay. Yeah, I probably will go up to 320 on this. And if you can get the ceramic belts, one thing I like is if you're Canadian, Home Hardware has started selling ceramic, at least they call it ceramic pads for your belt. For your palm sander, like I'm using here, and they actually hold up really well. And if you were using it on just strictly wood, it'll last for like ever. But pretty well, one of the lessons I've learned really early on with anything sanding or any sanding product is basically it's expensive. But you got to use it like it's free. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm actually going to stay a little bit longer on the 320. That way, I will get a little bit of polishing on it after it starts wearing down a little bit. My 320 is only aluminum oxide, I think. It might be ceramic too, actually. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna leave a little bit longer on it. It'll polish up a little bit nicer. Now, I'm not looking for a mirror finish on this at all. But I kind of want it as clean as I can. So this by far is not going to be, like I said, a mirror polish. I don't think that's really needed for forging dies per se. So let's get you kicked over, huh? Even though you'll see some reflective in it, for sure. But like, yeah, it's not a mirror finish. So that's the bottom one. Ooh, that feels good. And the funny thing is as soon as I use that the first time, it will just get messed up anyway. So, yeah, whatever. It just won't be as bad. Now here's the worst one out of all my dies, and this is my top flat one. So again, it's going to be the same thing as the other one, where I am going to be using my angle grinder first, and then going over to the palm sander. This one's going to take a little bit longer because I can't just go in right where the dimples are. I have to actually smooth that whole thing out, or I'm going to have a flat spot. Actually, I'm probably going to take my straight edge right now to see where I need to correct this. Oh, I still have that sliver in. Did I get it now? Oh, it's still there. Ah. I don't even know where I picked that up from. Anyways, so I'm actually going to take a straight edge right now and see how I'm doing. So right now I actually am dipped in, which is going to be even harder. Because now I got to take the dimples out, but it's also lower than the sides, so I got to smooth everything off. So this is might take a little bit. Actually, I was just thinking, because this is a little bit more sunken in than the other one, I'm actually going to get the grinding cup out for this. Just to get this smoothed off as quickly as possible. Which means I have to get the other grinder out. So I have two grinders in my shop. One that has the nut on it, and the other one does not. The other one is this guy that usually gets a wire wheel put on it, or basically anything that doesn't need the cup. I mean, doesn't need the nut. I'll just put that up there. Look at that, pretty, pretty. And when you are using these, if you're not familiar with an angle grinder that much, make sure you take the bottom nut off. You won't believe how many times I've seen guys at weld shops not do that, and then it's near impossible to take the wire wheel off. So that's got it most of the way down. Woo. Yeah, that's a lot better. So just go back to the flap disc. Okay, so that should be most of the grinding done. We'll just put the grinders to the side now. And we'll get these, this one, whoop, get this one polished up. Don't worry, I'll clean up my mess afterwards. Actually, I'm going to use a brand new 120. I don't have anything smaller, unfortunately, so. Ooh. I'll move up to 220. And then I'll just grab a 320 right now. And we'll finish this guy off. I gotta clean my my sanding thing. I know I haven't showed much of my shop per se in this in streams, but I do have a filing cabinet over there. Filing cabinet way back there, and it's sanding saws. So circular saw, reciprocating saw, the blades for it and all that. And then air tools. And then welding right at the bottom. So that's how I use it. That actually was my grandfather's filing cabinet. So all that should do for that die. It's not perfect. It's not perfectly polished up, but it will do for what it needs to do. You could probably see a couple scratches left over from the grinding, but I think they're not too bad. I don't think they'll show up majorly on my on any pieces that I'm working, especially not nearly as much as the dimples that used to be there. So I think with that all said and done, I think that's all my dies actually. I think that's all my dies. Just taking a quick boo around because I need to make a rack system for my dies, so I don't have this problem with having so much stuff all over the place. But yeah, those are my dies. I'm just going to leave them back here for now. And use them. Oh, my last die. Actually, it's the one die I haven't showed you yet. It's actually in the press. And that is my bowl die, or my dish die. It has been repaired already once or twice. So that's the top of it. And the bottom, it keeps on getting stuck right at this point in time. Not sure what that's all about. But, and there's the bottom of it. Rude and crude, but, and that was, those are for my, I have ring dishes. I have ring dishes that are made out of I don't have any, I don't think I have any here to show ya. I don't think I do. I used to. I had one that was a little wonky. Oh, I used that. That's right. I used it for the bottom plate on my fire basket thingy that I made a couple of weeks ago. So that's my dies that I use for my yeah. There's my dies that I use for my press. Can definitely expand on making more dies. But at this point in time, I think that's it. What else can I do? What time are we at? Do we want to? Oh, that's roughly an hour. Do we want to call it an in on the stream? I think maybe. Yeah. I gotta get the sliver out. I don't know how I got a sliver. Anyways, yeah, those are my dies for my press, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. I do need to make a rack for them. As you saw at the beginning of the stream, they were kind of all over the press. It's actually weird seeing the press with that much open space. Like that much open space. I can't remember the last time it's actually looked like that. Yeah. So it's nice. It's nice to see it clean like that. Let's see if I can keep it clean like that. Yeah, definitely making a rack for those dies is coming up. Maybe next week. Maybe next Monday I'll make that up for you. The goal is that I actually have a rack system that's a little bit further back and then have the spot in front. So my goal is to have the rack system more back here on the table and then still leave this open spot here. So if I have drifts or something like that that are not actually necessarily a die, I can actually have them sitting there, water can to cool off drifts, or my forging goo, whatever. Punch lube, yes, punch lube could be there as well. And also just having a spot where you can put down steel and like pick it up a different way. That would be really nice. It's originally why I made it with a table on it. So I have that flexibility of being able to put hot steel down, flip it over, and not have to walk all the way back to the anvil, do that, and then come back. So yeah, we'll get that, maybe next week on Monday we'll get that going. Anyways, those are my dies. Saw how I fixed them. Yeah, I think this has been a pretty decent Monday. I hope I educated you, or at least entertained you during this video. So till tomorrow, we're making a tool tomorrow. Yeah, we're making a tool tomorrow. So because it's Tool Tuesday. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, 1:30 Eastern time. Yeah, thanks for watching.